Thanks very much. Great, good evening, and welcome. I'll call to order the January 24th FinCom meeting at 6:30, thereabouts. And we don't have too big a crowd of citizens yet again tonight. I was thinking after last night's plea for people to join in on the fun that they might be here, but obviously it's open meeting, so folks from town are obviously welcome to join us and ask questions and see the budget process firsthand. So with that, we'll go to the department briefings. We've got three on the, or four on the agenda this evening. We'll start with Bill, with the DPW. Thanks for joining us.
Which one would we like to start with?
Take it away.
Okay, why don't we start with the highway?
Highway. Okay, so we've got in our packets
some of the highway, but it's 422 in your
we have some, but not all. Some are updated.
Highway is the only one that we, yes, did a little update to, but 422 is
422, thank you. Got it.
Yeah, 22.
So basically, I guess we start with capital. The paving, the number 40,000 for the paving is to supplement our Chapter 90 appropriation, of which I believe is close to 154,000 this year. That money also is used to take care of winter damage in the spring. We really would like to be more than we are now. 10 years ago, we were hoping to be around 150 a year, close to what we get from Chapter 90 money. The Peterbilt truck lease, this is year 2 of a 3-year lease. And then what I'm asking for this year is a front-end loader. It's a 5-year lease to own with a $40,000 annual payment of $40,063, and it's going to replace a 32-year-old loader, which we're currently using now, it's pretty tired. And the portable truck lift is a lift for all of our heavy equipment and our trucks, so our mechanic can get under them and work on them. The more he can do, the less we have to outsource. So that we haven't had a lift for almost 3 years now. To replace the existing lift is over 100,000. These are portable lifts. There's 4 of them with jack stands where we can use them anywhere in the garage. It's not fixed to just the mechanic's bay. So it's going to be good. If we ever had to use them down the fire station, we can take them down there too. So that's what I'm asking for. Everything else is, other than the 2% COLA, is level funded.
So we get 150 in Chapter 90?
It's about 154,000. I haven't got the letter yet. I'm waiting for it. Any week now we should have it, but it's going to be right around 150.
Somewhere in that range?
Yeah, the last 3 years have been right around there.
And that all goes to paving repair?
Yes.
The road repair?
Well, I use it for strictly paving.
Yeah.
You know, no sidewalks unless we have to.
Right.
But I can use it for paving, equipment, or I can use it on sidewalks, or even like a salt shed. So anything to do with paving the roads, you know, load maintenance.
Actually, on that note about sidewalks, do they go under capital when you do plan to do sidewalks generally?
They can. There used to be a line item for catch basins replacement and rebuilds of 25,000, and there used to be 16,000 for sidewalks, which have been eliminated over the last 10 years.
Okay, though you've put in sidewalks.
Right, I mean,
like
I have, well, yeah, but that was all privately funded.
That's right, it was.
All of it, 100% of it. Any sidewalk repairs I do now, I take out of the line item for street maintenance.
Gotcha.
And just as an FYI, well, no, I'll wait till we get to the snow budget on that one. Any other questions on?
So are there any changes to highlight from November?
No.
Is there anything?
Other than, Leslie, that it's free cash for the
Right, so what I did, remember the 216 in the
Yep.
new capital?
Yep.
Two of his items, I've indicated in your book on the page of the capital. So it's still on his line item in the detail, but what I've done is shown that the paving projects, 40 will come out of his operating budget and the 10,000 is funded with the free cash because they wanted to, this past year it was, or this year, currently, in FY18, we did the 75,000.
Yes.
Right, so if you notice it, and we want to try to increase that by 10,000 each year, so that would increase it to 85,000 in FY19. 40, this current year is out of the operating budget, and the other 10, they did, 35 was done, what did they do? That was free cash, right? Yeah, with free cash. So this year, 40 was out of his operating budget, 35 was out of the free cash. FY19, we're looking at 40 out of the operating, 10 out of the free cash, and still, I just need to speak with Peter. I think it's looking to try to where that other 35 would be from, because it would be another source. And I don't have that answer right now while Peter's not here. And then again, on the capital, that is going to be funded with free cash is his portable truck lift at $45,000.
So, go ahead.
I'm sorry, so free cash, so I'm looking at, I have 5,800 under capital, free cash total is around 95,000.
Is
Because we got
83.
plus this 10 up top,
Nope, the 10 will be funded by free cash.
okay.
So it's 40. So if you look, the paving projects would have been 50.
Yeah.
If you look in your, no, but 50 total.
Yeah,
Coming out of his operating budget or out of his capital line. So 40 will continue to come out of his operating budget, 10 out of his free cash.
Got it.
Yep.
And then we will continue to keep the second payment because that is continued capital. It's not the new capital, which is
Okay.
his Peterbilt truck lease,
Yep.
the second year. That'll remain in his capital line. And the portable truck lift was in his line, but since we're paying for the new additional capital for FY19 with free cash, that portable truck lift will be paid by free cash, 45,000, leaving his bottom line in his operating budget of $83,020.
okay.
That make sense?
For capital.
Capital, just capital,
Yeah.
just
Right.
capital.
That does. So new front end loader, the Peterbilt, recent. Any other large capital needs? I mean, the truck, the replacement was long overdue, right? I mean, you kept it
Yeah.
going. It was well maintained and everything, but
Yeah, well, the Peterbilt replaced a 25-year-old truck. We still have a 18-year-old truck
yeah.
that's getting close. We've got a 11-year-old backhoe that, we need to look at them in the next couple of years. And those are big-ticket items.
Did we sell those?
We trade them in.
Trade them in? Okay.
Is the portable truck lift really portable? I know some of those, like, that don't, they're typically still bolted into the floor,
No, no,
right?
this isn't bolted. These are on wheels.
Yeah,
And we'll be moving them all around in
Okay.
the garage wherever we have a need.
that'll prove.
Some of the bigger trucks, it's easier to work in the bigger part of the garage rather than stick them in the mechanics bay and have no room to walk around it.
Right, right.
It's better than what we have. And to replace what we have with all the hydraulics and to meeting the code today, it's over $100,000.
Yeah, yeah. We need to.
Obviously.
Safety rated, those portable,
Well, they are safety rated.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're all-
those wheels
they're-
lock.
Well, the wheels aren't, once it's in place, the wheels aren't on the ground.
Right.
Okay,
And if it's,
I get it.
if it's not perfectly level, they won't go up.
great.
So they're pretty good. We had a demo and they look pretty safe. And they're approved by Maya, our insurance company.
Good.
So a lot of garages use them now.
Yeah, good investment.
Is that it? Can we go to snow and ice?
Sounds good. Any other
Yeah.
questions on?
No, thank you.
Highway Department?
Snow and ice is level funded. No changes at all. But as an FYI, I want to let everybody know, because you'll get the letter when we run out of money this year.
Right.
Out of expense, out of $70,000, I have $21,000 left. Out of salary and wages, we started with $36,050. I'm down to $20,000. And it's a fairly mild winter, but the sanders go out quite a bit. And the biggest part of that cost is obviously salt.
Bill, you said of 36, you're down to
20,
20?
I'm sorry, you down 20 or down 220?
220.
220.
And that's salary for all of the town employees.
So the expenses all on this page are in-house, not outsourced?
Yeah, the expense account is all the private contractors, salt, sand, and repairs, cutting edges for the plows,
Okay.
repairs to the sanders as well.
Oh, sorry, that's right, of course. So 36 is allocated internal. Your
Internal,
crew,
yeah.
this
Our crew-
70,000's outsourced?
Yes.
Okay. How do you draw from our salt, or do we pay them 47,700 for their own salt that we budget?
Well, we're in a consortium with 8 other cities, and we negotiate a price. And right this year we pay $50.25 a ton delivered. When I started, it was like $30. And the budget, I think, has only gone up once in the last 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go to building and grounds, or do we have any other questions?
So you run out of money, the 20,000 that's left. If that happens, we have a reserve fund
I
transfer.
drafted up a letter to you and to this board and the selectmen,
Right.
and we can overrun the budget by law.
Yeah, that's the only account that can actually go over the appropriations
Right.
legally. So he'll write a letter letting you know that he can go over, that he's requesting that he goes over that. And then in the end, we can do transfers. We see what we have left. We can do transfers within the accounts because the new municipal law allows us to do it from various accounts, not just a highway or anything like that. We can do any accounts, or a reserve fund transfer, or if for some reason it exceeds that, we can put it on the recap, and that increases our expenses, which allows us, it's a formula obviously to set our tax recap, and that allows to go on the recap as a expense to increase it, and that will increase that to increase our revenue, so that we be able to increase our tax rate based on that. Tax titles on that as well.
Which we probably wouldn't want to do, would want to first find.
Right, we would
find a
do all
transfer.
of that. It wasn't on, like last year, actually last year we didn't have any, we didn't need to do anything.
No, it was
A year
it was really
before-
the year before we
year
did, when we
before
had
we
that
did.
bad
And
winter.
that was just transfers between, inter accounts, just within the accounts, so.
So the draw and excess, you said there's the ability to do that without a request of reserve fund transfer? Is that what you were saying?
That is the only account legally that we can exceed the appropriation during the year without doing a reserve fund transfer. You're supposed to do a reserve fund transfer prior to, obviously spending
spending
it.
the money.
That is the only account that we can
Okay.
do that with
They can
legally.
go over.
Right, so he
Yeah.
would write a letter telling you that, he's hitting that, the next storm's gonna cause that to go over, and that's letting you know, so.
And then we'll come in.
Fix it
and-
later.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
vote on
we can do that
transfer.
at the end when the end of the year stuff.
Right. So we're not doing it every foot of snow. Great.
Building and grounds?
Yep, and that's 192.
192.
Made a slight change to your books. And that is also in your folder under the expense part.
How much paper do we go through? This time of year?
But we recycle.
Have a big bonfire with it.
Recycle.
No more bonfires.
No more?
There isn't one anymore.
The trees.
Just giving you the most updated sheets, so that you.
Second, third.
you can-
Building and
we can-
grounds.
we can,
Yep.
So we've got
192.
the cover, 192, and we've got to change the expenses.
From what you saw previously, yeah,
From
when
the
we were
original,
with the
yeah.
Board of Selectmen,
Yep,
correct.
Is that the energy manager?
The
Yes.
energy manager's the main change, yes.
The energy manager was 8,000, that was in expenses. Now it's 5,000 and it's in, or it is in expenses.
Right, it used to be, that was
be in
one of those
salary.
one that used to be in the salaries, but we moved it to the expense because she is paid, she's
She's the Green Communities Coordinator for Hamilton and Wenham. We split her salary.
but Hamilton handles the payroll portion, so they should have it on their salary and wages line, and we should have it in our
Expense for us.
expense line, because we just write a check. We get a bill, we write a check for that.
Great. And she helps to procure a grant.
She does all the reporting for Green Communities and helps us get the Green Communities grants, which right now, the reason it went down $3,000 was because she's still working with the schools on redoing the high school, middle school control system, which is I believe it's a $2 million grant to do everything. So she's involved in that, and we'll be working in Wenham less this year. So that's why it's reduced. It should be 8,000.
So you expect, so it's from 8 to 5, over to expenses, you expect it to go to 8?
Right.
Yeah.
And next year, we're going to be starting more projects in the town of Wenham. I've got a few I want to do, and she goes after the grant, and she does all the reporting needed, which is a lot of paperwork.
Right. Nope, that's great.
And we did take the capital, the 2 capital items for building and grounds was
Yes.
part of the new capital.
Oh, yeah.
So that's being funded by free cash, which is the
The
painting and the
old water truck,
which
the trade-in.
you were told about yesterday from Eric from Water,
Yep.
that
Yep.
the highway
Shifting
So we're gonna
over.
keep that old truck.
Right,
Yes.
and the highway is gonna purchase
And it'll give
it.
us another plow truck, which is
Yes.
always helpful.
So, and that's
It's one less I have to
$5,000
outsource
cost.
for, and we'll have one more plow truck. And it's a utility body truck, so right now, Jim Politano, who's the new facility director, he uses his own truck, and we pay him a mileage. And it's about $2,400 a year. And so without that, he'll have a truck that he can use that's already stocked with ladders and all the parts and everything he needs. He won't have to unload his truck and load it every day.
Right.
So it's going to make us more efficient. And the other capital item is, there's $18,000 to paint 2 sides of this building this year, which will be done before the end of the fiscal year. We're appropriating $18,000 to do the other 2 sides. And those are the 2 items for this year.
And the town hall will be completely repainted.
Yes, yes.
Every 5 years.
Trying to do it every 5 years. And then there's other things like the coins in the corner of the buildings that they seem to need work every year, so,
Some attention.
yeah, you have to look at that as well.
So you do half one year and half the next year?
Yes.
And then wait a few years and then start over?
Right. Ideally, I'd like to do one side a year,
Yeah.
but it didn't work out that way, because we didn't get to do it a couple of years ago. We just kind of pieceworked it.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Quick question. Under the expenses on miscellaneous, what kind of included in that? It's a $3,000. Just,
Well, miscellaneous is mostly like you need something, you gotta run down to Dawson's and get paintbrushes. It could be paint, it could be hardware. Anything you get at the hardware store, I would say mostly. I'd say probably 80% of it. Supplies,
basically.
oh, definitely supplies.
yeah.
In the HVAC line, 16,500.
That is to work, if we have to call Poyer and Springer, somebody to work on the boiler or the air conditioning.
Yep.
In all of the buildings. It's police, fire, COA, in this building.
Yep. Okay. So
And-
maintenance and repairs
Yes.
of HVAC.
And the contract service is strictly cleaning.
Okay, so all in, big picture, 186,235 thereabouts for building and grounds, right?
With the salary, yes.
With the salary.
Yes, with the salaries, yes.
Cover capital and expenses.
Yep.
Okay. Seems straightforward. Any other questions for Bill?
Oh, thanks.
Thank you very much. I will
think
say
it was
that,
Tree warden.
Get one more, tree warden.
oh yeah, tree warden, sorry. Yeah.
That's 294 in your
How can I
books.
forget
There's
trees?
nothing in your packets for that. That's remained the same.
Thank you, 294.
The only increase in the tree warden is the 2% COLA. Expenses are level funded. And there's no money in this budget for tree planting again this year, so. I know that's a question every year. Everybody wants us to plant trees.
Right. Right. And we expect the survey to help kind of get that ball rolling after we
Right.
get a plan in place.
Right.
And the tree removal budget, that gets used up pretty quickly?
Yes,
Still?
it goes fast. There's $3,000 left between now and the end of the fiscal year. 3,000, yeah. So anything above and beyond that comes out of the highway, like last year. What did we go over last year? About $15,000 through emergency tree removals that the money was gone in this account, so it had to come out of highway.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised there's anything left after all the wind and...
Yeah, well, we do a lot. As a matter of fact, I just brought 7 loads of trees that we took down that came down around town to Brick Ends, and that cost us $840 just to drop it off there. So, I mean, there's a large expense there.
And the tree removal, you do all of it yourselves through the?
No, this
Do any of
budget
it?
is, anything that requires a bucket truck or a crane comes out of this budget. Anything we can do ourselves without a bucket truck, yes, we do it in-house. Or if it comes down across the road, obviously, we
Mix,
clean
yeah.
it up. Yeah.
And who do we contract with again?
I don't think there's a single contract.
There isn't a
is there?
contract. I usually, what I do is I'll put it out to bid. If we have, like last year, Cherry Street needed a lot of work, and I had, there was 11 trees that needed to come down, so I got quotes from 3 different companies on how much it would cost.
So it's from incident to incident?
Yes.
Is that the best way to describe it?
It's a lot more work on our end, but it's a way to save the most money.
Yep.
And like Hamilton, they'll go by caliper of a tree, a certain price for an 18-inch tree, and but sometimes you don't make out on that, and I'd rather do it job by job or day by day. And some days you don't need a crane, some days you do need a crane for the whole day, and that's where the big expense is. Yeah. So I try to lump those all into the same day
Yeah.
and have them jump around, so we don't have to have a crane on this day and a crane for half a day here.
Yep. Economies of scale. Yep.
And the bids come in, you'd be surprised at the difference, between the tree companies. And they're all good. They all do good work. But it's all about getting as much as we can out of this budget. So we schedule as much as we can in the summer. What's left over, I have to leave a little bit left over for emergencies in the winter. And stump grinding is another thing we don't do enough either. As you notice, a lot of stumps are still on the sidewalks, and we get to them when we can, but there's never money left over for that.
Do you have a stump grinder?
No.
In-house? So that
No.
would be contracted. now.
Right.
Yeah.
Did the large tree that fell up the road here, did that count as a highway tree?
No, that's the state highway, so the state is responsible for any tree that comes down on 1A.
Right. Okay.
Every other street we're responsible for.
So we otherwise would have possibly paid for the removal of that.
Oh, yeah, that required a crane to get rid of that.
Right. And then there's other exposure too, legally, right?
Yeah.
Right. Questions on the tree?
No?
Thanks for all the
Okay.
great work on the roads. I was gonna say that, when I drive in the morning, I go to the Beverly Depot. And, so you get the windy stretch there by J.C. Higgins, and it's like you're crossing into another zone entirely as far as the snow goes.
Right.
With this, maybe not every surrounding town, but it's just so much cleaner, the work that you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. We've got a good crew, and they work hard, and they take pride in what they do, and I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, it's noticeable.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
So it's Iron Rail, Jim is here.
Jim's from Iron Rail, yeah,
Yep,
great,
and it's
great.
199.
199, thank you,
And Jim
Leslie.
is here, so.
Good.
Yeah, I guess I should just leave it. I'll put it in my office. If you want. There's something I'll do.
Is there anything in here?
No, Iron Rail. I
No
not changed.
changes?
No, so it's in your book, 199. And that-
Did you come to the November presentations, budget presentations, the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah.
Yes, I think we were here as invited guests, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't remember who was here. I came.
yeah,
Those were great. I don't even have anything to ask. 'Cause
They-
I
Right.
Everyone,
asked
but
so
I think
much.
everyone
Right.
had come except for Eric was out of town, I think. So
Yeah.
I think that's really the only person you hadn't seen,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
But we
That's
still
right.
had a water presentation.
No, it was
Right, no,
great, yeah.
Ernest, yeah,
You
Ernest,
mentioned that last
yeah.
night, and I
Which-
I
who
was
was
drawing a
very
blank as to when it was,
knowledgeable,
but, yeah.
Yeah, it was in November, yeah.
Yep.
So, Jim.
Okay, Jim,
Jim,
how are you?
Wow, you guys
We're moving right along.
are nailing it.
Oh, we're doing our best after last night.
Why, what happened
Two
last
nights in a
night?
row. Well, nothing, just that we were here.
Ah. You learn from your mistakes, huh?
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Covered a lot of ground in November, so.
There you go.
All right, Iron Rail.
Iron Rail.
Is there a capital in there?
Capital, Bill, I think he's gonna
I'm
talk.
sorry.
In 199? You don't have 199?
So you can start.
Yeah.
Okay. Not much to say. I mean, it's been a good year. I'll just recount that we got all the major tenants on leases with escalation clauses and stuff. But as far as this goes, what we have proposed is to take the $25,000 out of the income per the revolving fund that Peter mentioned last year, and apply it and start to research bonding against that in order to pay for the large capital improvements we've got coming up before they become emergencies. We've got the roof replacement, we've got the road repaving and widening, and we've got the septic system redesign. Good news is we're going to be saving a bit with the road and with the septic system, since the DPW will be leading both of those projects. The roof will be the only one that will have to sub out.
The building for this is just for my education, the building with the roof repairs, the brick building?
Yes.
Or the barn behind it?
No, it's the brick building, yep. Yeah, it's right at the end of its useful life, so. Had a couple small leaks, but nothing major, but it's only a matter of time.
So is that 25,000, is that an annual bond expense?
Mm-hmm.
And how many years is that for?
They're talking about, according to Peter, he said he's in conversation with the bond council, and they're talking about a 10-year bond.
So will you be requesting 25,000 every year out of your rental?
25,000.
Yeah, so the
Correct.
first, we just did in 18 was 20,000, correct?
Right.
20, yeah, in 18 and 25, we're looking to increase it to 25 and 19.
Okay.
Yeah, in 18, we just
20.
needed money to pay for the sign. We're replacing the sign out front and a few other minor improvements, but now we're getting into the major stuff.
All right, sign came first, paid for in full,
Yeah, well, it hasn't been put up yet, but yeah.
But
Yeah, it will be
appropriated.
paid for in full, yep,
will be paid for
Yep.
with that money.
exactly.
25 over 10 years for the bonding, plus
Mhm.
the debt expense, obviously.
Right.
Yep.
Just another quick, the barn. Are
Mhm.
the scouts still responsible for the barn in terms of maintenance and,
That's a great question.
and it's an old building?
Yep, it is, and much to my chagrin, every time you drive in, you see two boarded-up windows, and that's going to change very soon. But, yeah, they contribute to the best of their abilities, right? But right now, that's not a lot. We are looking into the possibility of them paying half the utilities for the barn, since they're the principal users of the barn. So we're in discussions with them about that. But to your point, I mean, I think you could see me smiling. We're going to be asking them to increase their participation in the maintenance of the
That
building.
building inspected every year? I mean, is it?
Yeah, it's old, it's old.
It's old. I was up
No,
in
it
the,
is. I was in it a long time ago.
I was up in the attic, and it's amazing the post and beam construction. There's not even nails in some of the sections. It's all wood dowels and stuff. It's amazing how old that building is. To answer your question, I don't know if it's, I believe we have an insurance inspection every year. I know that right when I started with the commission, there was some questions on some fire hydrants, and I know the fire department was involved looking at the smoke detectors and that type of thing. Above and beyond that, I don't know of any inspections.
Maybe not on its own, but I mean, it's insured as a separate structure on the property owned by the town,
Yes.
and hopefully would, through normal course of the occupancy requirements permitting, would find any glaring issues, I suspect.
And we just have 15 or 20 kids in there probably once a month or at least,
Yep.
if not more frequently. So
Absolutely.
the
Yep.
safety issue.
Okay, so the capital's well covered. I mean, it's been in the works for a while, these items signed plus these items.
Right. Exactly.
Was septic the newest one to be added to it?
No, we talked about septic last year. It's, I think it's only operating on 2 out of the 4 leaching fields, 2 of the 4, 2 of the 5 currently, so it's already very handicapped, so we're kind of nursing it along.
15,000 would cover
Everything.
everything?
That's
Really?
the beauty about doing it in-house, because we have the ability to
Right.
do the design in-house and also the work as well.
And probably few space limitations. You've got an okay place to work with.
Yep.
You're not-
Yeah, the field back, yep.
You're not on a residential lot.
Right.
Right,
Mhm.
okay. Great, no, that's terrific. Like you said, that's good savings in-house.
Yeah, between that and the paving, it's a good savings for the town, having the DPW right there. And Bill has been fantastic in cooperating and.
Will the paving go out toward, just curious, out towards I know it won't include the lot, which is the Soccer's
Right,
maintains, the gravel
exactly.
lot, the dirt, whatever.
Exactly.
Hard pack, but will it kind of include that circle area there? Or
Yes.
does it stop at the wall?
Everything that's paved now will get repaved, plus the parking lot behind the brick building. Because that's just gravel right now.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And that's tough in the winter because it doesn't always drain well. There's puddles, there's a lot of ice buildup, and and in the spring, it's a muddy mess. So
Okay.
the tenants will be very happy when we get it paved.
Right.
Again, curiosity question, is the leaching field the ballpark? Is that where
Yes,
it's located? Okay.
yep, yep. I mean, there's a lot of land before you actually get to the ballpark. That's actually the leaching field, but it's near the ballpark. Ballpark's at the end of that long rectangle, and the leaching field is closer to the parking lot.
Okay.
It starts right where the parking lot ends.
Nice green turf.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's never brown.
So, on this November 3rd document, that's a summary spreadsheet. It looks like it has a capital line item, 5,800, and then in FY16, it was 6,000, and then FY17, 18, 19, it's 0. And that's because we're moving to the rental revolving fund, is that correct?
Correct.
And then is there is there documentation somewhere that tracks the rental revolving fund?
We do.
Question.
Treasurer's office.
Because I have these numbers here, but I was just curious if it's somewhere on a,
What, the rental that comes in each month from all of the,
yeah, that tracks the like I have some capital. So in FY17, it goes to 0 because you switch to the rental revolving fund. So is that information somewhere that I'm not seeing?
Where the 25 grand go, or last year was
Like,
the 20
yeah,
grand?
like some kind of notation of how much was in FY17, how much was in FY18, how much was in FY19. You know, I see 25,000 for capital this year. I just am curious, tracking capital over time since 17 and for 17, 18.
this would have, back in these days, would have been under the iron rail. The 20,000 is going in a separate revolving account, I guess that's what we're calling it.
Yeah, revolving fund, isn't it?
Revolving funds. So out of the revenue that we're making on the rental properties, we took 20,000 out of it this year, put it into that account. 25,000 we're looking to take that from the rental that we get in 19 and put it into this revolving, do the capital projects and bond against that. So basically, it's paying for it itself separately.
So is there anything tracking that capital?
Sure, there'll be a separate GL. It's
That's
on the
in our
accounting
packet
side.
somewhere?
No,
Oh,
I did not
okay.
give that to you. That would be on the general ledger side. So right now, that's the 20,000 in there. 25 isn't in there yet because we're
Yes,
we're saying
yeah.
that, right.
But, and
So
I thought there would be something in there for FY '18 this year?
18, no, it's not gonna be on here because this is your operating
it's in the
budget.
se- right, and
Right,
it's
so that is a special revenue fund, and that will stay in there. The operating fund, anything in there that we do not spend goes to free cash. When it becomes a special revenue fund, anything that isn't used for your general purposes is a special revenue and can usually stay in that balance forever, like gift funds and that kind of thing, stay in that balance. And I have, I don't know the number off the top of my head, that would be Chris. I mean, I usually have to ask him for numbers.
So I guess the overarching question is just, is there a way to track capital expenses over time?
With that specific account, yes, with that special revenue account, where that 20,000 will go, where that 25,000 will go. So that will be specific to that iron rail. That's what you're asking.
Yes.
That is where that money is, or the 20,000 is. And that is where the 25,000 will go. And we need that account separately in order to have a bond issued.
Yeah, no, I get that, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just saw the drop off after FY '16, and then I have, this one line item for FY '19.
You're asking if there's budgeted capital expenditures in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and is there gonna be a way to track it,
So it's not in there, this is operating, only operating.
Yes,
Right,
In
so,
another account.
right, exactly, that you're not seeing in this documentation,
right.
because it's a separate from the operating budget. So yes, that's what we would track in the finance department.
Are you seeing an operating budget of zero? Because there's still expenses, there's still the insurance.
Expenses are there.
Okay.
The salary and wages and expenses,
Okay.
but the capital line is
Right.
zero because that's not in the operating
Got it.
budget.
Right,
We've
it's
taken that
switched
out
somewhere
and put it in
else.
that special revenue account.
Okay.
So yeah, my general question is, so then how do we track capital over time?
Again,
Is
that's
it switched? Got it.
tracked in the finance department with, so we have the trial, and that's what the accountant does, and yeah, so we do that in the finance department. I mean, I guess documentation, yeah, could be shown to you, absolutely, absolutely, but it is not here today.
Okay, just curious,
Yep.
thank you. I don't necessarily need to see it because I have this. I was just wondering.
Just wondering where it all kind of
Yeah,
fits in.
yeah,
the
like,
revolving
say
account.
5 or 10 years from now, being able to track
Yep.
capital expenditures over time, is there going to be a way to do that?
The trial and all of that at the end.
Thank
yes.
you,
Mhm.
got it.
And generally speaking, these are the first kind of major capital expenditures in a while,
A long while,
a
yep.
long while, right?
Yep.
Kind of.
Yep. I think the last one we
Highly
did was painting the
anticipated.
cupola, which would cost, I think, 8,600 or something 2 years ago. I think that was the last
Okay,
capital expense we did.
right, right. And your expenses are largely utilities,
Right.
right, by and
Yep.
large? And in terms of the contracts you had with your tenants, you said, I think you remarked early that you had, they're all in good order? and
Yes.
Where are they in terms of their span, their,
We just put, because of the new laws, we had to put everything out to bid, which we did this past year, 2017, and signed 5-year leases with all of the tenants this past year. So they're just starting their new leases.
they're into some with some market adjustments?
Yep, and
Okay.
there's, yeah, as I said, there was never any escalation clause, and, they've been operating without a lease for quite a while, so
Right.
we got all that buttoned up. We have some of the minor leases still to do, the scouts, the band that's on the second floor of the scout barn, the football team rents space in the back of the scout barn to store their equipment, that type of thing. So we're working currently on those smaller leases.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Important revenue generation for the town, one of
Yeah.
few beyond our tax.
I'm trying to get it, I think it's 4th or 5th largest. I'm trying to get it up there, even higher.
Yeah, yeah, with these improvements.
Yep, yep.
Great.
Are there still vacancies on the
Nope.
Iron Rail Commission?
Oh, yes, there are. I'd love to have somebody, love to have somebody.
Do you hear that, anyone watching?
Yes, please. No, it's fun, it's not a big ask. We meet once a month for an hour, and it's a good group of people, and we'd love to have some more support.
Yeah, Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great night. Hope you keep on schedule.
You too. All right, I'll go back.
Oh, cemetery, right? And Gary's here. It's 491.
491, Gary with cemetery.
And there's nothing that I've given to change. So.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
Good evening.
Evening.
Gary Cheeseman, Chairman of the Cemetery Commission. We have two appropriated lines. The wages is for the burial agent, which reflects flat funding with the COLA, and it actually shows a decrease, but I think that's because of the peculiarities of the pay periods this year.
Yeah, there was just some minor adjustments, yeah.
So that's flatlining. The expenses, we're going in for $6,600, which combined with the expected earnings from the perpetual care fund will cover about $9,600 in expenses. The largest portion of that currently is the third year of the purchase of the excavator, which is shared in thirds with the Water Commission and DPW. That also covers replacement fencing we need, records preservation, in discussion with the Mass State Archivist. The Massachusetts law requires that all cemetery records be maintained in perpetuity. So all those things down the basement and so forth need to get into some sort of protective sleeves and stuff. So we're budgeting some money for that as well. With the help of the...
Excuse me, I just have a question. Does the law state that has to be in paper form? Or
Yes, I personally talked on the phone, and he said the preferred method is to maintain the paper. That the state says that for cemetery records, they want originals, they want it in paper form. You're, of course, free to make your own digital copies for working purposes and so forth. But I think because of the often historical aspect of the cemetery records, that they want to make sure that original paper forms are maintained.
Thank you.
And as he pointed out, the state has the records back to early 1600s in paper form, so they can last if properly
effort.
kept. We got money in there for utilities, which is just the water and electricity at the Main Street and Iron Rail. Need some continued maintenance on the maintenance building at Main Street, including guttering and installation of a concrete sill on the back of the maintenance shed there to prevent water coming in. And we're budgeting for materials and cleaner as well. So all up, we figured about $9,600. The balance of beyond what I discussed there will all go to tree work, which is a pretty much open-ended budget line. We have one major tree in the Main Street Cemetery that needs to come down, probably a second one. We lost two in the storm of 30 October, one that DPW took down for us, but still needs stump grinding on that, and another one that needs to come down. And we have along the border with the Wenham Golf Club, there's, I think you might call them shared trees, but we need to attend to those as well. Iron Rail is in good shape, being new. We also holding some of the perpetual care funds for work at Fairfield. We've got a request into the CPA to get money to do some work there as far as the monuments preservation and granite work, but the tree work will come out of our budget if we get that CPA money. All told up, that our proposed budget is about $9,600, which is the $6,600 request, combined with the estimated $3,000 in revenue from the perpetual care fund. Any questions on that? The one other topic is the consensus of the Cemetery Commission is the sale of cemetery lots fund that we ought to look at putting that money into the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund. As long-term, I think your expenses, especially at Main Street, are going to increase. The only way we've been able to provide proper care to the colonial era and the older stones is through the CPA route. And from what I can determine, having offered up and put in the deeds perpetual care for these cemetery lots, that the town is responsible for providing that care. And certainly, with our decade-long low interest rates combined with what inflation in the previous period, certainly the perpetual care doesn't come anywhere near what our requirements are. So I know in the past that half of the sale of the lots has circulated back into the fund, which is drawn down by the town under the expectation that kind of offsets the work that DPW does. But the fact is, DPW doesn't receive any of those funds other than in the paperwork shuffle, so that it's, the town accrues that money from the cemeteries, the town accrues all the opening and closing fees from the cemeteries, so that, on a net basis, the town receives a lot of money from the cemeteries. And it's just an opinion and a request that we look at upping the perpetual care fund. Otherwise, in future years, the actual expense line is going to have to increase. The tree work, there's a lot to be done there, and you're talking $2,000 to $3,000 per tree, especially contractors are leery of working in cemeteries where one mistake can set them back several $1,000s on a broken stone or something.
Sure.
Questions?
So is the perpetual care fund maintained kind of separately as an account within?
Yeah, the
cemetery?
perpetual care fund is one of the town's investment accounts. Separately,
Yep.
it's managed as a pool, but accounted for separately, so that we get the fair share on the investment from the total town returns on the investment.
Does it apply to all the lots? Or I thought I heard you say there's a Fairfield Perpetual Care Fund. Is that separate?
No, the Fairfield was deeded to the town at the time the Tucker estate was broken up, and the town by deed agreed to maintain that cemetery in perpetuity. The Perpetual Care Fund originated way back. I think that at Main Street, when you bought your lot, you put some money in the kitty because everyone knew everybody else in town, and they just said, okay, we'll have some money set aside to do the flowers and mowing and so forth. But well above, beyond that, our estimates, that, cemetery at a minimum incurs $20,000 to $30,000 in annual mowing, leaf pickups, and so forth, equivalent cost from DPW, whereas the Perpetual Care Fund now is providing maybe $3,000 or $4,000 in return.
And that's in the form of investment return portfolio
Yes.
income, essentially.
Yeah.
So you're not drawing from it, you're on the receiving end of a distribution.
Yeah, the principle is non-touchable.
Right.
From the sale of lots, half of a sale of a particular lot, half that money, $500 currently in iron rail, goes into that fund to plus it up a little bit. But the other half currently is reverting to the current sale of cemetery lots fund, which has been drawn down by the town in past years. So something to think about.
Just to add on to your question is, so those funds, are they in a trust? Do they don't show up in revenue here? I didn't see them in.
They're with our investment company, so yeah, they're in trust.
They're
In trust.
So it wouldn't show up in
No.
regular revenue?
Now, what you're seeing on your line here, you'll see under the income is investment income.
Yep.
So that's like the other investments that we have, so that's part of that, but that his is his.
But you track all that
Yep.
revenue from opening and closing,
Right.
selling of
Yeah,
plots?
every quarter we,
That's-
yep,
okay.
absolutely, yep.
This is a total, how do we have a negative 12% of investment income in the last 3 years? Is that an accounting thing you want to tell me offline, or is that just, is that our
I really didn't
return?
look at those
Okay.
ratios, so I know that I've booked what there's, we've now just done the investment policies,
Yeah.
and we've put a little bit of equity, 10% into that, so we're actually did a little better. We were at 1.6 yield at this quarter. This is the first quarter after the investment policies were approved that we were able to shift some, because it was just really, really, really
Yeah.
conservative.
And was that due to legal requirements for a town to not invest in certain vehicles, or is that just?
Right, we can only
strategy?
invest under the legal list of investments, yes, so there's laws.
IPS.
Yes, so there's just a whole bunch of laws,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
The
can
only one that we
cover more of
can't, we can pull out of that, which we did, was the OPEB.
So, Gary, I mean, I think your suggestion makes sense. I don't know the best way to kind of go about seeing if to formalize it. It sounds like, based on, it sounds like you might redirect, kind of shuffle the proceeds from sale of lots in a manner, differently than today. And I don't know if that's a,
Yeah, I think,
Not a
this has
bylaw,
been an
but
ongoing
policy.
discussion for a couple of years now
yeah.
with the board and the town administrator. So I guess for historical reasons, the cemetery finances are very circuitous
Correct.
setup, and we try to put some transparency in there so that the citizens can understand what the true cost of the cemetery is. Because right now, at town meeting, it would appear on the face of it that it costs $9,600, $3,000 for burial agent and $6,600 for expenses, whereas the true expenses are far higher than that and well above whatever a perpetual care fund, which was originally set up to cover everything, can handle.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I see your point,
Yeah.
that reflecting the true cost, not understating it, is to the advantage of the longer-term care for it.
Right, and knowing that, I mean,
Cemetery.
the cemetery is going to be one perpetual care legal obligation, so you need to catch up.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's a good idea.
It makes sense. It does sound familiar.
It still isn't.
It's not right, it's not right. Oh, no. No, it's-
Okay.
Chief Perkins is up.
Oh, I think he's
Lots of changes?
210.
I think he's 210.
Good evening.
210, yes, 210. That's
Thanks for
police.
having us. I have Captain Napoli with me as well.
Captain? Here.
And there's no changes, it's what's in your binders.
Thank you. 210,
I don't
right?
think, did we change something in yours? Or did I? I did, no, I,
Just the admin car coming out. That was it.
oh, yeah, just his capital items, so I might have put it in your packets, like, now I'm confused if I might have done police, just for the capital line, he was one of the new capitals, so we're just funding it with free cash. So I just updated that.
Okay, you're ready to start. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good place to start. This will be repetitive for some of you folks because I know you took the time to come to the Selectmen's presentation as well. So we did not have a lot of changes this year with our budget. It remained fairly stable for the most part. Our salary line shows an increase of about $34,000. That is directly due to contractual obligations, which is a 2% cost of living increase, as well as some of our officers will have step raises built in. There's really two forms of step raises within the collective bargaining contract. There are the initial step raises. When someone is initially hired, they start off at 80% of their base pay, and it takes 5 years to actually get to top step, which is fairly proactive on the town's behalf. Most communities do a 3-year step program, so the town actually realizes a decent savings there, and we get to actually vet the people and make sure they're going to stay. So we have 2 officers still within that cycle, and then we have other officers which are getting merit step raises, which begin after 5 years, and then every 5 years they get a 2% increase. And we have 2 officers that are going to get that during this fiscal year. The only other adjustment we did do to our salary line would be for the town beach. We did raise the salaries down there to stay a little in line with minimum wage for the gatekeepers. And we had a difficult time last year obtaining trained lifeguards. We ran with only 3, which is not optimal by any stretch. We wind up on several occasions having to put a reserve police officer down at the beach and or 2 gatekeepers, which again isn't optimal because you lose that life-saving capability. And we actually close the water and people can just sort of be on the beach. So we're going to try to attract some more lifeguards this year by raising that from $12.50 to $15, which is competitive with what other communities around us are doing.
Is that in line with the pool, I wonder?
I think it's pretty close. Sean and I have been working kind of close together, and we're kind of trying to do like a co-op program. So that
to have a pool from which to draw seems like it would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. So that if we're running short one week and he has some extra lifeguards, we can. That's in the works.
Yeah, great.
Yep. Any other questions regarding the salary lines at all? Okay. Our expenses will be even less interesting. They would have been level funded, but there's actually a decrease of $2,500, and that's sort of a housekeeping issue where we had the officers receive a cleaning allowance of $250 apiece, and at the request of the finance department, they've asked us to actually move that. We did have it in the expense line, and we're transferring it to the salaries for better accounting practices, so that's really budget neutral. It's just moving from one line to the other.
To salary from expenses.
That's correct.
250 by 10.
Yes.
Yes.
What was that?
Cleaning
allowance, correct. Once a year, they get a
Uniforms.
reimbursement for $250 for their cleaning of the uniforms.
I think that's designed to cover a portion of it.
That would be correct.
Not all of it.
No, I was educated on that. The captain came from Hudson, and they had a rather more substantial cleaning allowance up there. But we'll work towards that in good time. The capital line, the original presentation we made showed an increase of $12,000. It's not going to show that anymore because of what Leslie referred to in the very beginning. She could probably explain that a little better than I, but it's been removed from the capital.
Yeah, from the operating capital and is being funded by free cash. That is part of the new capital of the 216,000 that we've been talking about. That will be funded by the free cash with the additional free cash that we've.
Right. So strip it out of the operating budget.
Right, and I just clearly did that so it was clear to you that it is something that they've requested and it's just not being out of their operating budget. So I've just tried to make these sheets a little clearer, and I hope that helps.
Right. And sorry, that amount was that we're pulling out?
That is 14,000.
Okay, the administrative vehicle, Yep. Okay.
Yes, we were pretty excited to finally get rid of that vehicle. It's the one vehicle that was actually purchased out of cycle and was done on an insurance buy because one of the cruisers got damaged some years ago. We never did get what we really needed for a vehicle for the type of weather we operate in. The captain's actually driving that vehicle now, and the both of us slid down a driveway last week, and it's sideways because we couldn't get up to an alarm and back an officer up. We got stuck behind the police station 2 days ago, and it's not even snowing back there. It's just residual ice and stuff. So, Peter and I are actually working towards the town possibly keeping the vehicle for like inspectional services and stuff, and trying to save some money on mileage reimbursement that way, where the vehicle will be paid for, and it would suit that need just fine. It's just not an all-weather, all-purpose vehicle for the type of work that we're doing on a regular basis.
So what will you purchase with the 14?
We will get it'll be an administrative vehicle, but it'll be all-wheel drive, and it'll be the exact same SUVs that we purchased for the frontline cruisers. Okay. It just wouldn't have the cage in it. It wouldn't have a laptop computer mounted in it. Right. There would be a few differences because it's primarily used for training, going back and forth to court, more administrative purposes. But it also does go out during all the inclement weather on patrol and to back up officers at accident scenes. And for instance, that was an alarm in a state with a very long driveway. We couldn't even get up there, so.
So Ford SUV?
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, we'll stay in sync with what we're doing to help save money on parts and uniformity and such, yep.
Is that 14 per year?
Yeah, that would be 14 per year for a 3-year lease.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even stripped down, you're not getting one for 14 grand.
Yeah, we're certainly not riding around in Cadillacs out there, but it gets the job done. That's the nuts and bolts of the changes in our budget. We have these backup sheets that will pretty much explain with formulas exactly what the rest of the funding is for. I'm glad to go over any of it and answer any questions you might have. But we break the salary reserve, which is everything else we do besides the weekly salary, up into time off sections, sick days, training, court lockup, and administrative, which is kind of a catch-all for everything else, which is where we do the ACO budget falls under us, the beach gatekeepers fall under us, all the emergency call-outs and such. The training that we do is quite a bit of what the state would refer to as unfunded mandates, their favorite 2 words. But most of that training that we have budgeted for here is mandatory anyway, and it's either the officers doing the training or the officers going to get certified to do the training for the department. But it is broken out up on the sheet here if you did have that. But
It's in your, yeah, it's the last 2 pages in your line. It's the salary one, and then you have the expense one. The last 2 pages after the other budget sheets.
Yep, appreciate the detailed breakdown.
Part of that training, Chief, is for your accreditation as well, I suspect.
that's correct. Accreditation does mandate its own set of standards and training. Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
I have kind of a big, sort of a big picture and historical question. If you look at, like over the past 4 years, the total budget has gone up about 175,000. So say roughly 50 a year, 46, 47 a year. Do you have is there a general explanation for that? Is that salaries or a change in configuration of, how many officers have been on and how they're paid, or is it vehicles, or?
No, our fleet remains about the same for the last 5 years. Our staff remains the same for the last 5 years. I think that what you have seen happen is back when I started in 2012, we had quite a bit of turnover. We had four full-time openings happen due to 2 retirements and 2 retirements. I'm sorry, 3 retirements, and 1 person just went to go work somewhere else. Actually, he went back to the water department over in Danvers where his full-time job was. So what has happened is those people fall within those steps that we were talking about in the very beginning. So every single year, those people are getting a 5% increase on top of their COLAs.
Okay.
That seems excessive until you look at the fact that they're actually working for 80% of what they would be making if they had been here long enough.
Yeah, and I see the value in having police who have been here for a while and know
Sure.
their job and are getting.
Yep. Yeah, no, there's no
paid
question.
for
I
their
mean,
excellent work, so.
Oh,
I was
thank
just
you.
curious about, just an explanation for what it is.
yeah,
but
that's
that
the
makes sense.
bulk of it right there. It would be salaries, and it would be because we have so many people starting off in those first 5 years, and they get the cost of living increase plus that 5% increase, so it moves your budget up quite a bit, but you're still below that 100%,
Sure,
if that helps any.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Did we make this change to move the 40,000? So it's a new frontline cruiser every year, right?
Correct.
Basically,
Yep.
it's been in the works for a long time. And
Yep.
That's the equation that works for you.
Yep.
Is the recommendation here to move from general operating from capital? Is that the case? Do we do that now? I'm just seeing that. in the yellow box here, recommended.
Number 2.
I
Yeah.
think that's an older narrative from when we
So
actually
probably-
made the change.
Okay.
And that was back in around 2012, 2013.
So that's just still in
Yeah.
place, but.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they just don't break it out separate because it is every year, and they did determine that by a finance definition, it is a regular operating expense.
Oh.
I mean, I would think it's technically capital, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whether it's, yeah.
Well, and other things, we've moved from operating to capital, and this is
Right.
kind of going the other
Right,
way.
right. If we do, but I mean, it still shows under capital,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we
40,000,
break it out for
whatever.
transparency purposes, but they leave it under our operating budget.
Right. Any other non-frontline cruiser capital expenses, larger ones that you anticipate for over the next?
We participated in the 5-year plan with all the other departments. Let me take a look. So this year, the extra capital item was the administrative vehicle. For 2020, let's see here. FY19. I'm just trying to see where the year, I'm working off of my worksheets. I actually don't have the 5-year capital plan in front of me, but,
Nor do I,
Got it
it's no
tonight,
problem.
yeah, so-
okay.
I can
Yeah,
bring
it
it the
wasn't-
next meeting
wasn't-
for
I
you.
have it in a binder at home.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, I know, it's a biggie. Yeah, it wasn't.
I can be no
okay.
help.
I'm not exactly
No.
sure which particular
Sorry.
year I asked for which particular item, but we do have mobile laptops for the cruiser replacement in there, coming up sometime in the near future. We have,
Are radios in the mix, or no, your department got the
we
radio?
got them last year,
Right,
yes.
last year, and then
Yep.
fire department's following on.
Fire department's trying to get them, I think, as we speak, correct?
Yes, this year,
Yeah.
yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so we should be all set with portable units, and we did our mobile radios, which are the ones in the cruisers. We did those a couple of years ago, and we just built it into the price of the cruisers and then backed it out when it was over, so.
Makes sense.
It was an easier way than trying to do it all at once, because those are expensive too. Those are about $3,000 a piece, so.
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna have to replace our patrol rifles. I think that's a little bit further down the road, but we have 14 patrol rifles. Those replaced the shotguns a few years back with all the unfortunate school shootings and business shootings and everything else. We made the transition, as almost every department did, with the from the shotguns to the patrol rifles. But we repurposed our shotguns to a less than lethal beanbag configuration. The officers train with those as well to give them one more option before getting to deadly force if applicable to the situation.
Chief,
Yes.
how's the building holding up? Do you see anything there? I mean, for example, we had the painting
Yep.
for this building. Is there anything there that's going to be coming up? after
That is in the final year of the 5-year plan. We did budget a significant amount of money to update or replace the camera recording system. By then, it'll be pretty dated, and we're looking at enhancing it a little right now because they're going to put the old Enon 1 fire truck out back here, and they wanted some cameras pointed specifically at that, which is a good purpose. So because we already have the system in place, we should be able to kind of piggyback on with what we have. But to answer your question, as far as large capital expenses, that's the only one I foresee right now within that 5-year window, is that those probably will.
But everything else is holding up pretty
So
well.
far, yeah. Yep, no, we're very grateful for that facility. It's dramatically changed how we do business from a safety point of view, and
Right.
some of you actually got to see that night.
We
so.
did, yeah, it was great.
Yep. Yeah, the old building, told the captain some of the stories when he started, but in the old building, we'd be booking prisoners with our back to them, and it was
Yeah.
just, you know, not a good way to work, but.
No.
This is unrelated. Were either one of you in Ipswich at the bar? Wasn't there, or was it Hamilton Police? And I thought there was a Wenham police officer also who helped the choking gentleman.
Lieutenant Kavanaugh?
The life-saving, that was in Essex, right? That was.
Oh, I thought it was in Ipswich.
He was retired from Wenham, and actually his son is on the department now, yeah, Lieutenant Larry Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, that was a great save. That was,
Yeah, it was.
That was,
just curious, 'cause it's
32
in the-
years of Wenham training,
in the
helped
press.
save that individual's life,
All
yeah.
this budget's paying off and saving
That's right,
lives.
yeah, there's at least
Case
one
in
person
point.
out there very grateful right now, so.
A CPR or a choking?
Choking,
Heimlich
yeah.
maneuver, yeah,
Choking? Wow.
yep.
And then they said he ordered dessert.
Well, he
He
made
was
room.
choking, and some police officers that were off duty were there,
Yeah.
gave him the Heimlich.
Yeah.
He was no longer choking, they saved him. I mean, he was choking, and he's like, all right, I'm good to go, I'll have dessert.
That was the best dessert of his life.
I would say,
Unrelated,
hear.
just curious, because it's been in the press.
Sure.
Keeping people
yep,
Was Larry?
safe in lots of different ways.
yeah. Anything else I can help you with?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've done it. We've gone through departments.
Yeah.
Good night,
Thanks, you too,
thanks.
Captain.
Yes, we have.
Great. Okay.
It's pretty good.
So, in terms of next meetings then, so we're back, we'll fall into our kind of Wednesday time slot. So we'll be back here, the 31st, 6:30,
Yes.
for more budget review before, a week later, going over to meet with our colleagues in Hamilton and the schools.
Is there a Board of Ed meeting tonight?
The school committee?
Yeah.
Yes, it's tonight, yep. Yes. And,
Taking our viewership.
What?
Taking our viewership.
and I also put in the packet,
This is helpful.
the budget calendar.
Oh, good.
Again, those are moving targets, but they're there for you to maybe look at that.
For the long range.
Long range,
And are those
that you
dated?
requested last
Are
night.
those dated also? Because I have multiple versions of this.
I took the newest one that we have
Oh,
off
I
of
see,
the
it's dated,
server.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all
So-
dated, but
It's pretty much. I looked at it briefly, I just remembered that I needed it before the meeting, but, you know, like, their meeting might have changed. I mean, obviously, there's some dates that don't really pertain to you, but, we have,
ATM is annual town meeting, STM is,
STM?
yeah.
hopefully there isn't one.
That was a special town meeting.
Special town meeting. Oh, yeah, if we
Right?
were to
Deadline
have one.
proposed to have, that's
Placeholder.
not- So
Right.
it's a, that stands for special town meeting, STM?
The STM does.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the
Is that on there?
mandated, the windows.
Right, it's, again, it's
I
just.
don't know what STM.
No, that's, yeah,
Question
that's
should have
okay,
been, I
yep,
don't know what
yep.
STM Okay, okay.
Oh, this is great, thank you
Yeah.
for
Or the 8th,
providing
and what do we
this.
look like? We have, the 14th, right, he has us down for? Would be the next one I would add, right? This is FinCom meeting, final review of all department budgets, and that's a
Yeah.
snow placeholder if we,
You mentioned that might be rescheduled yesterday evening, right? The
Well, that's our
14th?
meeting on the 14th, right? But
that would be ours, right?
Oh, yes, ours, you're saying theirs might be rescheduled, right?
Theirs,
Yeah.
I believe, has been changed to the 13th. The school committee,
Yeah.
Right.
I believe it's the 13th.
Okay.
And what, this is an evening meeting, obviously.
Yes, these would be evening
Can we
meetings.
move ours to the 13th
Wow.
from the 14th? Or is there any kind of budgetary timelines that we would be,
Move it to
Or-
when?
or to a Thursday, just to have the 14th off? for
I'll bring a
family
box of
Yeah.
chocolate, it'll be fine.
I'd probably have to regift them.
I'll bring a big one.
Exactly.
So is it,
Yeah, I'm
Pay a price.
sure that's, could
yeah.
be discussed, correct?
I
So we
think we
can
should,
do
I think we
that.
should definitely entertain that.
Yeah.
Tuesday or
That's a good
Thursday?
idea.
Taking that
I'll make a note of that.
personally.
and we'll-
If you'll bring chocolates, I'll eat. I'll sweet
Yeah.
too.
My 10-year-old found some of the chocolates last night. no sooner did I walk in with them to CVS.
Oh, you're an early shopper.
Well, I found some extra bucks that were expiring.
Oh, no.
What else?
What else are you gonna buy, right?
More tea tips.
All right, great. What do you say? Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, David. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you.
So how would we?